ladies and gentlemen, to my Impact review at Orlando, Florida, which I'm surprised the crowd was more than normal, more lively this time. And I'm glad it happened, because a lot of times when they're in that damn zone in Orlando, Florida, the crowds are basically dead. Who gives a damn about them? I usually don't. But in this respect, I felt a little bit of participation from the Impact crowd, which made the show a lot more interesting. Now, overall, this show was a bit surprising because it was more wrestling than storyline. And I have to say that's actually good to see once in a while, because if you overload the entire show with storyline, you don't really get much. So it's alright once in a while that there's more matches than there is story. But I have to say this, and before I get to that match, the ending of the show I was not fond of, because I have my opinion on it, that something needs to be done and done now. But I'll get to that in a few minutes. The opening of the show was a tag match of Bully Ray and Willow versus EC3 and Rude in a tables match. Now, you guys know how I feel about Rude. I love him. He's a good heel. He's the top. Right now, let's be honest, they ain't showing anyone else as the top heel, so he is the top heel at this moment. He is. But when you see Bully Ray, at least for me personally, I just want to see him go away for a while. I'm tired of Bully Ray. He's been around for more than 2 years. Yeah, he has a couple of weeks off here or there. But if it was a couple of months, I would be alright with it. But we didn't get that. We now have a fully turned face Bully Ray, which the crowd does like. The old ECW crowd really loves seeing Bully Ray. They love seeing Willow in this respect that he's in, this persona of Jeff Hardy. But you know, I'm going to say this about Jeff Hardy. Most guys, like Bully Ray himself, when they have to take on a new persona, they don't always change how they look to go with the new persona. In many cases, they stay exactly the same boring, drab person that they are, and that's one of the reasons why Bully Ray, to me, is boring. I don't hate him, but he's been around too long and he's boring. But when it comes to Willow, I'm actually quite entertained to a point. At least, like I said in several of my reviews, he is putting an effort out to be different. Most WWE guys don't do that. They just stick with the same old shit. So seeing Jeff Hardy like this was actually quite good. The match was good. The ending wasn't bad at all. You know why? Because Rude is the one who got put over here more than EC3 did, more than Jeff Hardy did, and definitely more than Bully Ray did. And seeing Willow take Rockstar Spud away, and I'm still entertained by Spud. Hey, you leave him alone. You leave the son alone. You leave him. I love how they make Rockstar Spud in this capacity. He's probably still a great wrestler, and I'm sure he is. I'm sure when we don't see him on Impact, whenever they do a live show, he does great. But in this capacity on Impact, he's doing a wonderful job. And I'm very glad that they did British Boot Camp and brought him in, because he's doing so well. I was entertained with this. It was not that bad. And then the hits kept coming. Mr. Anderson and Samuel Shaw, which I am kind of disappointed about, but I'll explain that in a moment. A straitjacket match. I don't remember ever seeing a straitjacket match in the last 5 years at least in WWE and TNA. Well, I haven't watched the product beyond 2009 much. After 2010, I started watching TNA pretty well. WWE, I've seen for years, and I haven't seen a straitjacket match from them in a long time, if ever. So this was actually very good to see. Something entirely different. They almost went straight into it right after the tables match. Wasn't that bad. Anderson put over Shaw well. I was glad to see Samuel Shaw the way he was. And in fact, it didn't really matter if he won the match or not. He had to have a good showing. He did. They really need to do more, and this is why I'm upset. Samuel Shaw is an up-and-coming heel. He's doing a damn good job at it as well. But they're not showing him enough. They're not showing Christy Hemme enough. They're not showing this feud. They went story-driven last week into this week. Now, I'm hoping they'll show more of Samuel Shaw after this, but kind of reluctant to believe that. Because when you look at the next match, which kind of had a little twist to it, you can see TNA is still not really understanding. They need to put storylines that are already there, give it more time, and give it more TV time on top of that. Now, Tigre Uno versus Sonata, a best of 3 to see who's the new X Division champ. I've not no problem with that. It's good to see the X Division promoted. In fact, this is my thought. I believe they still do TNA Explosion. They really need to see if they can do an extra show on Spike. They need to see if they'll let them do it on another day and make Explosion. I don't know about this because I don't usually watch Spike. But if Spike is doing Explosion on another day, they need to promote it more, which I don't think they do. But the problem here was not that the match wasn't good. Later it was. It was a pretty damn good match. Here was the problem. They kind of buried the X Division just a little bit to bring someone up, which I didn't have much of a problem with. Kenny King, the king of the night, baby. Had to do it, I'm sorry. What they did last week to delay it was good. What they did in the early of the show, saying he had no match, was good. Him coming out and complaining at a X Division best of 3 match was actually very good. Bringing out MVP to deal with this was the right thing to do. And in the end, what do we get? We get a match of MVP and Kenny King. Now, it kind of dumped on the X Division match with Sonata and Tigre Uno. I'm sorry, it did. Yes, the match went immediately afterward. It did. My feeling was this. If they were going to do this, maybe they should have did it at the end of the match, when the match was over. But then there would be the problem that Sonata would be buried as well. Still buried. Actually worse. Because they really tried to put Sonata over using Muta as the catalyst while the match was going on. So I can say this. I did think maybe if it was done after the match, it might have been more effective for MVP and, well, Kenny King, but it would have buried Sonata. So doing it in the beginning of the match and letting them talk the talk they needed to do was actually very good. Now let's get to the exhibition match of Kenny King and MVP. And I have an issue with this. I said in my last review that Kenny King needed to come out with at least 1 or 2 women under his arm. Nothing. He comes out dancing in his suit, takes the suit off, and he has his ring attire under it. That was not right. He should have had a robe. He should at least had 1 or 2 women with him that should have done it. They could have gone to Orlando. They could have gone over to, hell, go over to Wonderland. I don't care. One of those places that's over at Disneyland. And grab 1 of those women or 2 of them and say, look, we're going to take them for a couple of minutes. We'll pay you. Take a couple of good-looking women to be under his shoulder. That would have made him more apparent as the true king of the night and just an average X Division Kenny King. I know what they're doing here. I've said this myself. I said they need to put him over and they need to raise him out of the X Division, and that's what happened here. Kenny King finally had a match with a main event player. And you can say MVP is not a main event player. Yes, he's the director of operations. He's not that great. Let's be honest here. Kenny King is a major player. And for Kenny King, no, not Kenny King, I'm sorry, I said Kenny King. MVP, I think I've done that. MVP is a main event player. We know this. We like him, but he is. And in this respect, Kenny King having basically a put over by an MVP, and looks like they're going to have a feud now, is actually the best thing that could have happened to him. He could finally be pushed into the main event. Fortunately, they don't have a TNA television championship that he can win right now because they hid the shit. But still, this is good to see for Kenny King to get. Now, Madison Rayne and Brittany versus the Beautiful People. I'll say this. If I had to choose any one of these 4 women, I know I would probably... Who is the most best looking woman all around? None of them. Look, Brittany is damn beautiful. She is. Physically, she's very beautiful. She has a nice looking face. Angelina Love has a gorgeous body. Her face is pretty. Madison Rayne, you love her or you don't. And then you got Velvet Sky, who has pretty much the best boobs they got there. So all four of them put together, you do have four very good looking women, and I'm kind of stretching it for Madison Rayne, in the ring at the same time, which was lovely to see. It's kind of hard to choose which one I would take. If I just had one of them in front of me, I would be happy. If I had to choose from any four, I would have to think about it. But you didn't have to think about Brittany. Brittany was put over here. Yes, she had to get pinned. She did. Angelina Love needed a pin, and she got it. And it wasn't going to be Madison Rayne, because it's not time for Madison to give up the title to Angelina Love. That's the one that's going to get it. I'm sorry. If you really want Brittany to get it right now, she's too green. She's not going to get it. But it was good to see Brittany do a great showing. Just like Kenny King did a great showing with MVP, Brittany did a great showing against Angelina Love and Velvet Sky. And I got to say this about Velvet. Compared to Madison Rayne, and this is saying a lot, the one that was botching more in this match was Velvet Sky. I'm sorry. I mean, Madison Rayne is not a great wrestler at all, but she looked a lot better than Velvet. And they mentioned Madison having her kid, so maybe she wanted to get home to breastfeed the baby. I wouldn't mind seeing it. I'm sorry, I don't mean to be disgusting, but you get my point. Now, just before the match of the Fatal 4-Way, I'm just going to call it that, Magnus and... You guys know how I feel about the Abyss. He's just lost. There's nothing to do for him. Now, you see I'm botching. I don't like to see Abyss like this. I'm not a big Abyss fan, but he could have had a better manager and a better storyline than this. And hearing "I love you" from Magnus, what? Really? They're doing this with Magnus to get Abyss more depth? If you're going to do that, why don't you just show flashes of Joseph Park? Show Abyss now, and then little flashes of Joseph Park coming back. Confused. Now, you could say during the match, maybe that was Joseph Park acting a little antsy because Magnus kept saying, "I love you. Don't pin him." And I'm kind of going into the match right now. But it just didn't feel right with the Abyss. I'm sorry, it just didn't. And the match itself, the Fatal 4-Way with Joe and Young versus Abyss and Magnus. There was only two people I really believe deserved to win this match. And that was not Magnus, and it was not Abyss. It was Samoa Joe and Young. And I'm saying this honestly. Samoa Joe has been shitted on for 4 years, and he deserved to win. Eric Young has had the most stupidest position for so many years. And now that they made him more serious, he actually deserved to win. He has never won the world title. He's won every title when it was still in existence. This is the only one he never won. And they built him so well, like a Santino 2 years ago. If he had won it, people would have been happy to see it. But then they decided not to go with that and stay with Magnus. This is what I said in the beginning of the show, where I believe it was wrong, wasn't comfortable, I didn't like it. Magnus at this time is really bad. And it would have been better for him to drop the strap to either Joe or Eric. Eli could have been the best choice between the two. And I do love Samoa Joe more than I love Eli. I'm telling the truth. But the person that would probably make a lot more impact right now would have been Eli. Eli's been built better than Joe at this moment. He went out of a really bad storyline into a really good one, and he actually has the best build at this moment. By my humble opinion, I would love to hear what you said. But he should have been the one to win it. But in the end, he had to do the job for Magnus. And Magnus has been terrible since they put over AJ. I'm sorry. I love AJ Styles. And that time when that match came out between Magnus and AJ Styles, I didn't have a problem the way AJ looked. But now that I've seen the full fruit of what happened after that, I agree with the Slag Daddy and Fool Killer 99 when they made their reviews. Because they simply said they buried their champion for a guy they're not even sure is coming back. Because AJ has not come back yet. It's not a work. Just like CM Punk is gone, AJ Styles is gone. So what do we get for this show? It wasn't a bad show. It's more wrestling than storyline. Do I believe Russo is there helping? I don't know. Maybe there's a chance he is. But in the end, if he is there or he isn't there, I can say this. TNA has been really trying to improve their product. The ending sucked. This is just my humble opinion. But I do believe they have progressed a lot better than what we had in the last 4 months. I'm sorry. I'm not fond of seeing Samoa Joe not win. I'm not fond of Eric Young, who I really believe should have won. But seeing this wasn't great. But still, it was a pretty decent show with actually a lively crowd that actually made it good. So I hope you enjoyed the Zane view. Please give me a please give me a comment below, and I will be doing my WrestleMania 30 review once I see it. So you guys have a good day, baby.